Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode. My guest this week is a two-in-one. Her name is Tanya, and she runs the Etsy shop, The Bodacious Bee, and she also has a real estate business called Lynn Real Estate. Tanya, thank you so much for being my guest, and welcome to the podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Ijama, and I'm a little nervous. I'm just going to disclose that I've been following you in the shadows for a while, and I've always wanted to talk with you and have a discussion, but have just not had the energy to call, or just the bravery, I guess, because I feel like people that go on are just so brave. So here we are, though.
Yes, and so are you, and don't be, because I tell people this off the air, and I don't know if I've ever actually said it on the air, but sometimes I think I'm more nervous than my guests, because I feel like most of the time the person I'm talking to has probably listened to the podcast, and so they kind of have an idea. And I'm an introvert, and I feel like I'm walking blindly into a conversation with someone I don't really know, and it can be awkward, especially for introverts, because we're not the best conversationalists. And so if you're nervous, I'm nervous. Don't worry.
Well, you're always so natural, so that's good to hear, and it gives me hope.
Well, I'm glad that you reached out and you connected, because I'm really interested in talking about what you're doing on Etsy and off Etsy, because I know that you've figured out a groove for yourself, and so I'm happy to get to that, to learn about that, because I think other people have some of the same struggles that you might have had. But before we get into that, can you just tell us a bit about yourself, what you do on Etsy, and how you discovered Etsy?
Yeah, so I have two businesses. I run a natural soap shop on Etsy, and then I also do residential real estate. And the soap shop began via my wedding, actually, which was about 6 years ago. And I was doing wedding favors, and I really wanted something that was going to be handmade and really special for my guests, that came from the heart. And so I've always kind of been somewhat allergic to fragrance oils, and my skin is really sensitive and finicky. So I did a lot of research, and just some background. I'm an ex-structural engineer. I went to Colorado School of Mines, which we're both in Denver, and that is why I moved here to go to graduate school. And then I worked as a structural engineer for 6 years. So my background is a lot of math and that kind of stuff. So my first soap recipe I made from the internet, and the second one I made was my own recipe. And from then on, I never went back. And I'm just a researcher at heart. So I dove full speed ahead into it, and made everything from scratch with essential oils, and only the best oils that my skin didn't react to, and just put a lot of love into that. And my guests went wild over it at our wedding. And so they were just like, we need more of this. We need more of this. This was not my intent at all. And I was still working full time as an engineer. So I started making it, and I ended up with a lot of soap. And so I threw it on Etsy, and it was just seriously like the iPhone from whatever 6 years ago. It was just those kind of photos, and I just threw it on there. And for the first year, I had orders like dabble in here and there. And then after the first year, I got a really nice camera and took better pictures. And then it just kind of got to the point where it wasn't sustainable for me to be doing both anymore. And so I chose the passion project, and I really went full on in the business, and got my real estate license and started doing both of those things. And I think that whatever you're passionate about is going to come naturally to you, and you're going to do a good job at it. So that's how it grew for me. Yeah. And that's how both of those businesses have become really like part of my soul, and part of just who I am now. So I know that was a long explanation for your question.
No, and you got me going. No, yeah. I loved it, because it's just given me some more insight. And I just want to say, for anyone who is not familiar with the Colorado School of Mines, you just blew my mind when you said that, because that's a big deal. Colorado School of Mines is one of the premier institutions for, I didn't even know where to start. So when you said that, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my goodness. I moved, for anyone who doesn't yet know, I moved from California to Colorado. And so you start to learn about, your new environment and what's what and where is where. And I have nephews and nieces who were applying to colleges. And of course, you first look locally, then you look outside of Colorado or California, wherever you were. Anyway, Colorado School of Mines came up, and the more I heard about it, the more impressed I was. I actually have, and I know I'm going off track, but I'm going to reel it back in, I promise. I have a cousin who, I'm originally from Nigeria. I have a cousin who is a petroleum engineer, and she does the hiring for Chevron in Nigeria. And she comes about every other year, except, COVID from last year, to Colorado to recruit students from the Colorado School of Mines to go and do internships for Chevron and, well, not just Chevron, I should say, but other oil companies, because oil is one of the major exports for Nigeria. And they come to Colorado School of Mines to find people. So in my head, the school is such a big deal. And then when you said you went there, I was like, oh my goodness, now I know a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines.
Oh, that makes the big world feel so small and intimate. I love it.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you said you went with your passion project, because I know sometimes if the hesitation to do that doesn't come from within, sometimes it comes from without, from people saying or thinking that you can't do something you really love and still make a living. And you left a corporate job to do this. At what point did you know that it was the right move for you, other than just knowing that it was where you were drawn to internally? I'm sure there were some financial aspects to consider in that decision, but other things too. Also, I guess deciding whether or not you thought that working your passion every day wouldn't become repulsive, I guess. I don't know if that's too strong a word to use.
A lot of people say, when a hobby starts becoming revenue inducing, that you're going to lose all of your passion for it. And that can be absolutely true if you let it consume you. However, the two things that I chose have to do with relationships. So my Etsy shop is pretty much online at this point. And obviously over the past couple of years, I haven't had any other options. And plus I had a kid a couple of years ago. So that plays a role in being able to, go do fairs and things where you're face to face with someone. But that being said, I'm able to interact with customers a lot. And so from that, I feel a sense of fulfillment that even though it's become my, quote unquote job, I absolutely love it still. And for what in-person dynamic my shop doesn't provide me, my real estate job enables me to meet people and talk with people and help people on an entirely different level that is as much, if not more fulfilling as well, because things are really hard to navigate right now. And when you do something for someone and get them a house or get them into their first home in this kind of a market, that is just, there is no better reward in life than doing that for someone. So even though my passions became what I do for a living, I think if there's that human interaction and you're someone that really thrives off of that, it adds the extra layer of fulfillment that you need to keep going. Because if you're fighting for not just yourself, but for other people to help them or to give them something they need, that is really what life is all about.
Yeah. Do you find that you get your marketing or you do your marketing through your real estate business by giving gifts first and drawing people into your branded products? Or do you keep your Etsy business kind of separate in that everything there stays online and you don't cross lines?
I try to give, not through Etsy, but through my business.
So Tanya, your mother-in-law is your biggest advocate. How does she help you sell more soaps than you sell?
This is a business that's really built upon word of mouth or
Yeah.
promoting your product. And if you're someone who's a little bit more of an introvert, like we've talked about, I'm great one-on-one, but the self-promotion is really hard for me. So being in a sales-based business where it entails a lot of that, there are people who believe in you almost more than yourself sometimes. And those are going to
Yeah.
be, the people that really promote you and likewise to them. So for me, I did great at fairs and I do great talking about my products one-on-one, but I love the creative portion and the portion where someone loves something and they get something from it. So the other part has really happened more organically for me. So I think the original question was if I mix things, and when it happens naturally, I do. However, I'm not someone who does a lot of marketing, to be honest. And I think that gives a lot of hope to people who feel a little uncomfortable with that, who don't want to do, marketing based promotions to their friends and family. And I understand that. And I've never really done those things.
Yeah.
But if you have something good that you believe in, whether it's a product that's your creative outlet, and because you love what you do and because you love people, then that can happen organically so that you don't have to go out there and do the marketing quite as much. So I know I have a lot of friends who are in this sort of a business as well who feel the same. And it is possible to be successful, which a lot of people ask me, hey, you're not on Instagram, you're not on Facebook, you're not on Pinterest. Like,
Right.
why aren't you on any of these platforms? I'm like, I just am a people person. And when it comes to connect with someone, that's when they can really be your advocate. So like, transferring that over to real estate, when I connect with someone, and of course that's not always going to be the case, but if you find someone you truly connect with, that is when they're going to advocate for you.
Yeah.
and do for you what you need done.
Yes. Yeah, I so agree with you. I feel the same way too sometimes. Like when I started doing the podcast, I would never tell anyone I was doing the podcast. I would just put it out there, and it was more people who listened that would share it. And for me, I was afraid to share it because I thought, oh, it's just going to seem so, I don't know what the word is, like just so out there, like, like here I am talking, now listen to me. And so it was easier to let other people do that. And like you said, just let the chips fall where they may. And,
Yeah.
but yes, yeah, I get that. And I know
And for anyone
sometimes,
out there, oh, sorry, go on.
no,
go on.
you go ahead.
Oh, I just had to put a plug in here that if there's anyone out there with small children, there is a book called What Do You Do with an Idea?
Oh.
And go out and get it. It's amazing. And it's just about having an idea and about having trepidation and fear about sharing it. And it's just beautifully written, beautifully illustrated. And I think it is such a strong message for small children in a world that can be scary, where it can be intimidating to share something you feel strongly about because maybe it's strange or maybe it's foreign. But that book is just amazing. Like I said, I have a 2-year-old and we just love reading that book. It's called What Do You Do with an Idea? And so I highly recommend that if anyone has small kids and they want to give them the inspiration to have a lot of bravery and vindication in their beliefs.
Oh, great. So I've written that down. I'm going to add that to the resources list for this conversation so folks can go and check it out. And I'm pretty sure it's probably on Amazon. So I'll put a link to it there too, so folks can check it out. That sounds good. I know sometimes we don't always get that. So as we grow up, then we have to learn to figure out how to deal with these things. So good on you for starting early and young with your son.
Yeah, and it's just, I think sometimes when you're not born into an entrepreneurial family or that hasn't been something that has been mentored to you, it can be really hard to feel that you have what it takes to make it.
Yes, yeah. And I know many of us struggle with that.
Yeah, when it comes to both my Etsy shop or real estate, I don't have many friends who've done it who haven't had parents that did it or
Yeah.
didn't have, maybe they worked for a company first. So there's just hope if you really feel strongly about it, and there's room in the world
Yeah.
for your idea is
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
So, Tanya, let's talk about what a typical day looks like for you. How do you manage your time? I would imagine for real estate, a lot of times you're out and about, but then also for your Etsy shop, it's very hands on because you're
Yes.
making the soaps. So, how do your days go? And how do you keep everything in balance?
So a typical day for me involves a 2-year-old running around, soap, orders, contractual based real estate stuff. And luckily, I have an amazing husband who's always, there to support. That's all going on. So it's usually soap batching in the evenings once he goes down. And the biggest thing, and I joke, is that I don't sleep. So people sometimes say, hey, like, can I text you like in the morning? I say, yes, you can text me at 5 a.m. You can text me at 11 p.m. I am up. I will likely respond. So I think that's kind of par for a course when you have small kids anyway,
Yeah.
but easier when you're passionate about something too, to stay up a little bit later for it. So it's a bunch of balls juggling in the air, and it feels crazy and wonderful and overwhelming and exciting all at the same time. And I think anyone with small kids who works can completely understand all of those things.
Yeah. So, do you try to carve time out each day to make the soaps, or do you have specific days when you're making because of the process that's involved, and then other days you reserve for shipping or coming up with new formulations and just tending to more of the admin side of running your business?
So I definitely have a bit of an ebb and flow going on, because on weekends I'm typically, that's more, looking at homes and helping with anything going into contracts, et cetera, for real estate. And then soap involves a lot of lye. If people aren't familiar with cold processed soap, lye is caustic, and
Yeah.
it's pretty dangerous. So there's no way I'm going to have a 2-year-old running around while I'm working with that. So once he goes down in the evenings, once or twice a week, I try to batch.
Okay.
And then usually do orders, throughout the day. And then I do the 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 new creative side of things as I have time for it. So that's kind of taken a back seat in the last couple of years. I'm excited to get back into that, as time allots. But it's definitely not a set schedule.
Okay.
However, I do like to keep my weekends a little bit more open for clients.
Okay. And so for 2020, because we all lived through that, and well, thankfully, we're on the other side of it, hopefully, at this
Yeah.
point. How did running your business have to, what types of adjustments did you have to make in running your business? Because I know we all had, like, it affected different businesses in different ways. For you, what was the impact, and how were you able to, I don't want to say recover, because I don't know that, we've all fully recovered, but work around the
Yeah, well,
change?
I'll give a two-part answer since I have two businesses, but I'll start with the soap.
Okay.
And materials, supplies, definitely the impact. I know because of shortages,
Yeah.
the price increases were really, really tough. And my main goal was not passing that on to customers, and I did a great job of that by
Mm.
just saying, okay, right now I'm just going to hold tight, and I just kept things as they were, even though it's been a little tighter on my side. And I don't know what the next couple of years are going to hold, but that was probably the hardest part. So even
Oh,
though my business was actually busier than it was before, if you think about it, people aren't going to farmers markets and they're not going out to
yeah.
the stores as much, so they're not buying their soaps as locally as they used to be able to. So I was actually busier, and then also navigating the price changes. And I'm very picky about where I buy from. I'm very picky about the quality of my essential oils and all the materials that go into my products. So I wasn't willing to compromise, obviously, on any of that. So I just said, you know what, people have done have dealt with enough in this past year. I'm just going to maintain everything the way it is for a year or two and see what happens. So
Okay.
that was probably the toughest part from my side. So it was good and bad, of course.
Yeah.
Working a little bit harder, probably making the same, but working, a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And that was what I just decided to invest in this last year so that I could do something
Okay.
from the comfort of my home, because everyone knows we were all home
Yeah.
this last year.
And I assume also on the real estate side that was affected as well, because at some
Yes.
point nobody could leave their houses. So
It's so strange the way it's been. It was, if you were driving, it was a big step on the brakes. Everything just kind of stalled for a second there. And then the wild side, and if we live in Denver and we're familiar with the market here, and I'm sure it's like this across a lot of the United States, but because the demand kind of pent up, at the end of that, it was just unleashed. And we saw that over the last few months. And now that we're entering the spring, buying season and the summer buying season, there's this demand for housing. And I think seller confidence is starting to up. However, it's been really tough, and having buyers just beat out by multiple offers, it can be really devastating. But I did want to share a story of hope with you that I have. My favorite, I love all buyers, but first time home buyers, it is so exciting because I remember buying my first place and like, there's so much excitement, but also a lot of unknowns and emotion
uh-huh.
going into it. And in this market, it sometimes feels impossible.
Mhm.
But I have one story of a gal who was able to get a place, and we were beat out by a few cash offers before that, but she fell in love with this place. It was great. The appraisal came in 10K over, what was paid. So there was immediate equity. And when you hear of these gaps where appraisals are coming in lower than purchase price, it can be just overwhelming to feel like, how could I purchase something? But I wanted to tell people that that's still possible. And you just need to find someone who's really going to advocate for you and listen to you, look for what you truly want, and be quick to act on it. And if there's not someone who's there in your corner really fighting for you and spending their 11 a.m. and 5 a.m. waking hours and like a crazy person looking for you, it's going to be really hard in this market. So just make sure that whoever you're working with is going to do that for you.
Oh, yeah, I know it can be discouraging. It's too bad that real estate agents like you can't operate online across all states,
Oh,
like you can only operate
yeah.
locally because
Yeah.
buying a home is so stressful, and especially when it's the first time. I remember when I bought my first, I used to have nightmares
Oh, I
about whether
know.
or not I would go to prison for missing a mortgage payment,
Oh,
you
oh
know.
my gosh. Well, and if there's anyone out there, I don't care if you live in Colorado. I mean, I'm licensed here, of course, and if you do, I'm happy to help you or answer any questions, but feel free to reach out to me. You can email me. It's Tanya at mydenvernest.com. You can text me at 11 p.m.
Oh,
My number's 303-257-7838. So if there's any questions you have about that, I don't care where you live. I understand that hesitation, and I remember the excitement and also a little bit of the fear. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm passionate about. So cross state lines, whatever, feel free to reach out, because I love this and I love helping people, and there's no better feeling for me. And it's even if you're not in Denver, that's totally fine. So anyone that needs any help with that or has
mhm.
any feelings they want a sounding board for, I'm here.
Yeah. It would have been nice back then if I could have called you and said, "Will I really go
Oh,
to prison if I miss a payment?" Like, because that
oh
that
my
was my
gosh.
nightmare. I had
Oh,
no
I know.
idea.
It's really scary, and there's a lot of unknowns. And I like to pride myself in there are some real estate agents who are just going to help you with the transaction,
Hmm.
and some people, that's all they need. But if you're someone who has a lot of questions about financing and
Yeah.
closings and all of the unknowns that a real estate agent can be there to help you with. Like that's how I really pride myself in operating, is that I'm a full circle. If you're showing a home and your dog is there, I'll come over and walk your dog while someone comes to see your house. Like I just,
Nice.
I'm more about the people even more than the paperwork.
Yeah.
People over paperwork. It's if you're hiring someone, they should be going above and beyond for you. They should
Yeah.
be doing that for you, because there's a lot of stress involved in buying or selling a home.
Yep.
And I understand that, and I really take a lot of stake in how the transaction affects my clients.
And actually, speaking about the stresses involved, one of the things I know that I've seen with some soaps, especially when they're infused with essential oils and aromatherapy oils, is they will have some relaxing properties, etc. Do you do that with your soaps, or are your soaps more just functional for cleaning and moisturizing and all that?
Yeah, so I would definitely call my soaps aromatherapy soaps. I use therapeutic grade essential oils. I even have a soap called Orange Therapy. And it's all based on what the essential oils do. So when I first started getting into my business, I read so much about essential oils and their properties. And obviously it was like the basic ones, like you go, okay, lavender relaxes. But I also, I make like bath bomb boxes, and those have Epsom salts and clays, which help detoxify. So I love plant-based therapies and holistic medicine, and really using those properties to not only nourish the skin, but the soul. And my lavender eucalyptus soap, if anyone out there loves lavender and eucalyptus, it has a little bit, I think, rosemary in it, but the blend is just, I call it calm for mom sometimes, because we all need that, a little bit of that. So I absolutely love that, that essential oil based.
Do you find that you have to do some educating of your customers, or do most people come already knowing, okay, not only, well, we all know why we need soap, but then in addition, do most people come knowing, okay, I want something infused with lavender because I want to be relaxed, but then I also want something infused with orange for, what does orange do?
Orange, it just, uplifting and I think just any of those citrus essential oils. They can also cause sun sensitivity though, so you want to be careful. Like bergamot and stuff, which I use there's a couple of kinds, and I use the kind that doesn't do that. But those are typically uplifting. But I should find it. There's this maybe I can have you link it later. I have an aromatherapy book that I think it was written by two gals who I'm probably telling this story wrong, but in my head, they had this old like VW bus, and they used to drive around like Australia collecting herbs. And this was way before essential oils was even in the mainstream whatsoever. And it's this gorgeous book, and it has every essential oil imaginable and all these remedies, and it's just an astounding book. So if anyone's looking for something on that, maybe, I don't know if you can post a link and I can send it to you. But
I can do that. So please do share that.
But I love that. And so I look in that. And so like for my baby soaps, babies up to 3 days can have 3 different essential oils. They can have lavender, mandarin, and chamomile. Or at 3 days, they can have that. 0 to 3 days, they shouldn't have anything. But at 3 days old, those are the 3 essential oils that are safe for babies. And so those are really important things to know when you're running a shop, even with all natural ingredients, that really, really knowing the market. And my customers are the full gamut, whether it comes to soap or real estate. I have some people that come in knowing exactly what they want and just, needing some basic assistance. And then I have other people who are new to soap or, new to buying a house, and they need, a lot of knowledge-based learning. So I love both of those though. I love the incessant question. I mean, like most people are like, that's probably crazy how many messages you get, but I love it. I love it. When you're passionate about something, it's not, when you talk about it, it just makes you feel alive, and sharing your knowledge of it is just, And that's what I am about both of these things. It's what makes me me.
So then I have a question about that. Would it be easier for you, or have you ever considered maybe creating a repository of all this information and adding education about all that you know to your brand? So basically, I'm asking, do you ever have any intention of building a website where, not necessarily for e-commerce, but maybe more for education, so that your customers get more, so they know better about what you sell, and that kind of keeps them connected with you and your products too?
So I do have a website outside of Etsy. It's just thebodaciousbee.com.
Okay.
And you can go there. There's not a ton on there, but I have a little bit about all of my ingredients and the way I soap with reduced water so that your bars are harder and they last longer. And then as we live in Denver, I use 10 to 12% extra oils when the typical is about 5, and I'm able to do that because how dry it is here. So the soaps handle that really well. So
Okay.
things like that. And I also add inserts. So I'm really bad about putting things online. I think I've mentioned the social media and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that I even have a website because I'm such a in-person people person. But I do add inserts. Like, so say someone bought a bath bomb from me, I have a little insert that explains all the ingredients in those bath bombs and what they
Okay.
do for you. And I wrap each soap individually when I mail them, typically in these beautiful craft paper and washi. And I don't put a lot of this online. And that's why I think my business has done so well mouth to mouth, by really people spreading it, because when it comes to online, I think that's one of the areas I really could improve upon. And it's a lovely idea. And I think it's something I really should start a blog, or it's definitely something that's on my bucket list.
It sounds like it should be, Tanya. Seriously.
Yeah.
One of the other things I'm curious about is, because I know you said you make the soaps in batches. How do you know which ones to make and when? Do you have a system for tracking your inventory, or do you know which ones are your best sellers and you just kind of know how much to keep in stock?
Yeah. So unfortunately, my soaps are usually never all in stock at the same time. I'm usually pretty sold out, and I'm working on optimizing my time instead of just being busy, being more organized. But I am an extremely organized person. Like, if you went down into my stock room, everything is labeled, everything is alphabetized, everything is in the soap, drawers. I have everything says this soap or that soap, and then everything is also documented on when it was batched and what I have left. And honestly, customer messaging drives a lot of my batching. So if a customer says to me, hey, you've been out of stock of this soap, I'm really looking forward to getting some, I will move them to the top of the list, or
Okay.
otherwise behind a couple of other requests, and I'll batch those first, because of course, what I want to do is make sure that people who are using my products aren't getting frustrated or not being able to buy something. So that's definitely a way I also manage what I'm going to batch next.
So how are people able to tell if you're out of a particular soap? Do you still leave the listing active in your Etsy shop?
The listing is not active, but it's typically someone who has purchased before and
Oh,
they're
okay.
coming back for more. Yeah. Because I
That's
have
so
some, yeah,
great.
yeah, I have people that are just, they love as the certain soap, and it's just something
Yeah.
that they order, every few months or so until they're out of stock. So I will be having a little bit of help over the next few months,
hmm
and I'm hoping to have more in stock, and it should look a lot better in my shop. So
Oh, great. So, oh, my question just slipped my mind. Um, oh yes. Do you keep in touch with your customers like through email? Do you send like a monthly or weekly or just some type of email just to stay connected to them? Or are these people who just love your soap so much, they're coming back on their own volition?
mostly the second. I do have an email list. If you go to my website, thebodaciousbee.com, you can sign up for my email list there, and I'll do promotions a few times a year. Right now, I'm just it's been quite a bit busier than typical. So I haven't been able to do that. So I will do that occasionally when I have the time for it. But I have such a great customer base. I have to be honest. They are such amazing people. I wish I could just be friends with all of them. And it's the same for me in real estate too. I don't know. I guess I'm just pretty blessed because, everyone that comes to me, they're just so lovely and spectacular, and they love the products, and they tell, I'll get an order from their cousin, and they said, "Oh,
Oh,
I found you through, it's spectacular." Or I'll do a wedding, and then people that got the soaps from the wedding come to my shop, and it's almost like a little family. And that's what I love about it, is it's almost a community.
yeah.
So Etsy can feel so big and intimidating sometimes, but there really is a lot of interpersonal interaction on there still too.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about using Etsy marketing tools. I know you're not really big on social media, so we won't go too much into that. But you know how now Etsy, and I'm looking in your shop, Etsy will tell you X number of people have this in their cart and what have you. Do you use any of the marketing tools available through Etsy to try and get those people to close the sale on your products, like send them a coupon or something to nudge them to just get all the way to checkout instead of just having it in their carts?
When my shop was first starting, I definitely used a lot of those vehicles to generate business. And I highly recommend, setting a budget for yourself if you have a newer shop to use the 20% off coupon, or to use, certain dollar per day on Etsy marketing. It can generate business. And even though it may not seem that it generates it right then, it's a snowball effect. So if you get a customer and they love your product and tell someone else, that can definitely be worth the marketing money. Right now, I just literally last week started it up again because my bath bomb boxes were out of stock for like 6 months, I
Whoa.
think. And they've just come back into stock. So I'm like, okay, it's going to take some time to generate interest in those again. So I did use some of that for those. However, it's really balancing how much time you have and how busy you want to be as well. So I wish I could, slash my prices and that I could just fill orders all day long and sell so that my product was more accessible to more people, because that is just a dream. It just definitely comes down to how much time you have. If you're doing this on the side in addition to a full-time job, if you're spending 50 hours a week on your shop and wanting to generate more business, I would definitely say put those dollars in and make them work for you, and keep on top of looking at them and kind of seeing, what it's generating. So it can be a great tool, the Google ads, it can all be a great tool. It's just, you got to make sure to kind of look and do the numbers for your shop and for your lifestyle as well.
Yeah, and that makes sense. What are some of the things that you would say you did either coming into it or now looking back that just helped you find a good groove on Etsy?
I did the Cherry Creek Farmers Market,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I believe that was in 2017. And any farmers market doesn't have to be, that's it. For those of you who don't live in Denver, that's a great farmers market here. It's really, really super busy. It's over in the Cherry Creek Shopping Center.
Yeah.
It's always happening.
Yeah.
But anywhere in your area, like there's a few more we have, and I think if I'd gone to any of those, it would have been just as great for my shop. But just really getting your product out there and being heard and interacting with people and starting a following to your product. And if you're passionate about it and you really put your love into it, that's where you can show people. At least if you're someone who's an in-person type of personality, like that can be just the door that opens. And I had people who found me, I think that was 4 years ago I did that, who still purchase from me online. And that just makes my heart glow. It's just someone who found my product and we really resonated together. And actually, I met one of my best friends from the Cherry Creek Farmers Market, and she still uses my soaps, and we both have, yeah. So it's just, if you have the time to fit that into your life. I mean, I worked so hard that summer setting up both Saturdays and Sundays, I think for like 6 months straight. And it was really intense. And at the time I was like, what am I doing? This is crazy. Batching all this soap. But it was, looking back, I'm just so happy I did it. So finding things like that really that really help get your brand out there and get you out into the world, especially if you're a little bit nervous about it, like I was. If you're a little bit timid about starting something, whether it's on Etsy or your own business, if it's entrepreneurial, just letting people know you're passionate about it, because that's when they know that you're going to do a good job at it.
Yeah. So you only did it once, and then from there, I don't, is results the right word? Have just been ongoing since then.
Yeah, I really feel that it's like a shockwave when you send something out, if your project excels, and also customer service, because I too purchase a lot of things on Etsy, and it's a mixed bag. You could get a seller that really, really cares, or
Yeah.
you could purchase something and it could arrive broken and they could do nothing for you. So I think that creates a lot of nervousness from people about using Etsy. So those reviews mean something. When someone cares about their customers, more than just, having an Etsy shop, that absolutely means something. So make sure you're in it for the right reasons, and make sure you're putting the people first, because that's the most important thing when it comes to, when it comes to sales or customer service, is putting that before anything else, including your profits even, which is hard to say because I know everyone needs to eat and live, but if you don't put one before the other, it's the wrong intent.
Yeah. Would you say that, before I ask you that question, do you sell internationally, and how did you figure out how to cross the oceans, with shipping, and I know sometimes some countries have some restrictions about, products that come in. Did you face any of that?
So I do have some of my listings available for international purchase, and it kills me every time it happens, because it'll be, say a $7 to $8, whatever, $9 bar of soap and $20 for shipping.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. And I swear almost every time that people have purchased internationally, I've slipped in extra things up to the weight limit that was the same shipping.
Yeah.
I'll just keep putting things in their package. And I'm like, I am trying to ship you as much as I can, because I feel so horrible about them paying $20 for a bar of soap. Gosh, so flattering that someone would want to try it so badly that they would pay that. But it's very hard to ship international with soap, because soap is a heavy item. And I get a lot of inquiries about shipping rates. And I know there's a lot of free shipping guarantees. And I just haven't been able to do that in my shop, because soap weighs, 5 to 7 ounces a bar. And once you get up to about a pound in your shipping, it's extremely expensive. You're going to flat rate, which is $8. So kills me. I am so appreciative that my customers still come back, still supportive, and pay those shipping fees. I don't make any money off of shipping, of course, but that is the difficulty if you're shipping anything heavy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine that. And yes, I know my heart hurts every time I get in a good way, not because I don't like international sales, but because I think the shipping is so ridiculous. I just really hope that one day we'll have a better shipping alternative, as far as pricing. And I don't care who the carrier is. I just want it to be more affordable, to where it just doesn't look so painful.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Are there any lessons that you've learned from selling on Etsy that you can pass on to perhaps another seller who's just starting out? Now, you're over 7,000 sales in. So I'm hoping that along the way, there's some things that you've figured out maybe how to do better, or, just something that you've figured out that maybe you can pass on to somebody else who's listening.
Of course. Like, where do I begin? If you're a really passionate person and you want to do all the things all at once, I think focus is what I would say. Find something that you connect with, and you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to start big, and it doesn't have to happen now. So, put a few things on and do your best at those few things, rather than to do a few things well than doing all the things.
Yeah.
And I think I try to do too many, like, I started out with bar soaps, and my family said, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And I tried a lot of different products, mainly because I was being asked to do it versus I felt really strongly about it.
Mm.
And I think that when you truly believe in something, that's when it takes flight. So find something that you connect with and put it out there, see what happens, and then take the steps after that. You don't have to have tons of capital and time to start up a business. You can do a little bit and do it well and put it out into the world with your heart, attached to it. And that can be the starting spark that ignites the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have everything, set up ahead of time and all this, your entire savings put aside to start an Etsy business or, to do the career that you're passionate about necessarily. I mean, sometimes this is a really blanket statement I'm making, but you can start small if it's a little bit scary, or if starting small may be the only thing you can do.
Yeah. No, thank you. That does help, because I do think, and especially as creative people, with all the ideas bursting, forth, we want
Yeah.
to, do everything. We want to touch everything. We want to try everything. And sometimes that does get crippling to the
Yeah.
point where we're unproductive.
Right. So you just have to focus on the things you love.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are there any particular tools or resources? And I know you mentioned the book, which I'm going to have a link to. What do you do with an idea? So I'm going to look that up on Amazon and put a link for anyone who wants to check it out. But any other resources or tools that you use that just help you run your business more efficiently?
Well, I haven't used it recently, but I don't have, has anyone you've interviewed, I don't know if you've touched base on Marmalade.
Oh, yeah. For keyword research.
Yeah, Marmalade was really great when I was first starting and didn't know how to use keyword research. So
Uh,
if anyone out there is just starting, what I did was I would just sign up for a month or two and really hone in and work on the listings I had to make sure that the keywords were appropriate and really working for me.
mm,
So hop on Marmalade. That's really useful. Invest in a great camera, that the pictures, and gosh, iPhones now are probably just fine because they're so phenomenal.
oh,
But
yeah.
just your branding, really make it resonate with you and in what you're doing and what you believe in, and making sure that what you're putting out there is something that you're really proud of.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tanya. That does help. And yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Marmalade is a tool for, helping to find keywords. And I think somebody mentioned before that similar to you, they'll go in and pay for about a month and just work their way through all their product listings and or things that they want to list, get that, and then cancel.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
that I'm advocating, I'm just saying it's a strategy.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
strategy.
Yeah, and as far as resources go for the real estate market, honestly, well, in our area, like I said, you can feel free to call me, text me. I'm at 303-257-7838, or Tanya at mydenvernest.com. And I'm happy to answer questions or talk to people about any hesitations or anything involving that as well.
Okay, great. And I will put all that in the show notes for this episode too, so folks can get in touch with you. I'll also link to your Etsy shop and your website. Um, oh yes. Do you have an Etsy shop shout out? This could be just another store or a seller that you particularly like or who has helped you along the way.
Ooh, yes, I probably have a few. Gosh, I'm gonna, I'm like, I don't want to get their names wrong, but my favorite right now, and I hope this is okay that I'm plugging her, but
Yeah.
we have done, in the past, we've done cloth diapers.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know it's nothing to do with sew, but I have compostable wrap in my shop. So I truly believe in, when it comes to especially small business, we can do better. And so you can order 100% compostable shipping materials in my shop. It's like tape that dissolves. It's cellulose tape and all craft paper type stuff where it arrives, and you can throw the whole package in the compost.
Okay.
So this gal's shop is My Eco Baby.
Wait, say it again.
And
My what baby?
My Eco, ECO, My
Okay.
Eco Baby.
Okay.
And she makes wool diaper covers using upcycled wool sweaters.
Whoa.
It is amazing. And these things, they're gorgeous. They arrive, she ships in like a day. She's wonderful. I don't even know how she does it. She must be up all night like me. But she sews them from the old sweaters, and then she'll put a cute little decal on the butt. Like I've had her do like a dump truck, or like my son likes ice cream, so I've done ice cream cones. And you like lanolize these wool covers, and you just stick inserts under them for if you cloth diaper. And it is amazing, and they are so beautifully made. I haven't seen anything like them, even if you were searched on like Amazon, etc. They're merino wool, and they are such quality and so beautifully made. So I cannot recommend her shop highly enough.
Okay, I just pulled her up. It's Gabriella of My Eco Baby.
Yeah, I'm sorry for her name slipping my mind.
That's okay. So I will definitely link to. Oh, it's a beautiful shop. Wow. Okay, I will definitely link to.
They're so cute. I want them all.
Yes. So I'll link to My Eco Baby, so folks can check her out. And you said not just diaper covers, but also shipping materials?
From my shop, I don't remember what hers came in. There are a few shops on Etsy that do 100% compostable shipping materials now. So there are either like just fiber. I use like a craft mailer, but they also have started making plastic mailers made out of corn. I think it's like a corn, and they just dissolve in compost. So it's so exciting to finally see that. And there are a lot of shops on board with this, including mine, and it's a huge movement. So if that's something that's important to you, I would definitely look for those shops that are going to offer the more sustainable packaging materials.
Okay. Oh, good. All right. So great. I will put links to that and have those in the show notes. Tanya,
Fantastic.
what's on the horizon for you and for you and the Bodacious Bee and Lynn Real Estate?
You know, I get goosebumps when I think about it. This year, and I'm sure everyone feels this way, it's like you've been contained in your home, and the clouds have parted and the sun has come out.
Yeah.
And I am so excited the amount of energy that comes from other people, nothing can contain it. And humans are such a social species. I think this next year, everything's just going to blow up. And I'm so excited just to start talking with people again, because that is what makes my world turn. I'm sure everyone feels the same exact way.
Yes.
So it's going to be probably 2021 is the year that everyone just got back on the train, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I feel that excitement too. And even like I mentioned earlier, even though I do tend to be more of an introvert, I have missed people.
Mm-hmm.
I have really missed people and being around people, and and just that whole aspect of living. So yes, I feel your excitement too, because I see the clouds parting.
Yeah. And just helping people on a more individual basis. Even though the market's crazy here, I'm really looking forward to this summer and just nailing those homes for people that feel like it's going to be impossible. And every time I do it for a client, it's just, I can't express how it makes me feel. I'm probably more excited than they are. Just the bubbles that grow in me, and just being able to get them something and walking into something with equity. It's just, it's the most fulfilling thing in the world, which makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. Tanya, thank you so much for sharing your enthusiasm and your passion for what you do, both for real estate and making soaps, and just helping people take better care of themselves. Thank you for that. Thank you for being so generous with your time and your knowledge. I will definitely have Tanya's contact information again in the show notes for this episode. If you missed it or you didn't have an opportunity to write it down, it will be at convome.com. Just look up episode 318, and everything and every way you can get in contact with Tanya will be there.
And Ijama, I want to express my gratitude for everything you do for Etsy, sellers and small business. It's spectacular, and there's nothing else out there like it. So really lucky to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you listening to the podcast. Thank you for listening. Just knowing that somebody out there is listening and getting something from this makes it worth doing every week. So I thank you, the podcast listener, for being there. And I will be back with another episode next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.